All right. So we're going to have a good time tonight. I have a pretty interesting question that I really want to see other people's opinions on. And we're even going to ask ChatGTP, what do you think the best superpower is for humans? Give an explanation why. Let me just make sure. Yeah, wait. Okay, so I have to actually share my screen. Hold on. Display capture. There we go. Okay. Glad I checked that. Hold on. Alright, I have to be in the corner. There we go. Alright, so actually, Ty Lopez asked this question, and his answer was really interesting. And his answer was persuasion. And that's an interesting answer, but I disagree. See, there's a lot of benefits to persuasion. Don't get me wrong, it's my new kick. Because persuasion has to do with moving people, and the world is obviously run by people. We're the most powerful creatures, so obviously, if you can influence people, you can pretty much make everything the way that you want it. So if you could influence the president, if you can influence your mayor, if you can influence the girl that you want to date you, if you can influence people to give you money, you can pretty much control everything on the outside. You see, but it's limited to that. So I thought it was pretty obvious. Yeah, I mean, he's probably selling. He's selling his courses. So, and that's his persuasion. He's persuading you to buy his courses by persuading you that persuasion is important because he's selling persuasion. I don't know if he actually really thinks that that's the best superpower. But I want to see what you guys' opinion is. How do I see who is viewing? Alright, here we go. Yeah, let me know what you think the ultimate superpower really would be, because I have my own thoughts. I want to see what other people think. And I also want to see what ChatGTP thinks. So let's go ahead and see what AI thinks, and we'll do this a couple times. Because, hold on. We're going to go away from that for a second. Okay, so everybody obviously has different goals, but all the goals, they seem to be geared towards the same thing, right? We all want health, we all want wealth, we all want happiness, and we all want love. Right? So, who doesn't want that? Nobody out there doesn't want health. I mean, I guess you can't say nobody, because some people don't actually go after it and they don't really care about it. But if you could just instantly magic wand have it, of course you'd want health rather than being in pain or just sitting on the couch and not being able to do anything and being ugly, and because health is related to beauty and fertility. But everybody, well, not everybody actually wants money. I mean, people pretend like they don't want money. Everybody really would want money. People pretend like they don't want it because it's an excuse for them not to put pressure on themselves to have responsibility to make more money. I actually have some friends, and we'll talk about it, but I don't buy it when they say they don't want money. It's obvious what money can do for you. You can help the world with money. It's like, well, why don't you want money so that you can give to charities that will help people in Africa have wells and have water? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, if you don't objectively want to even make more money, I'll go ahead and say it, like, make more money, then you're just saying you don't care about people really that much. Because I think everybody should be giving at least 10% to charity per year. And if you increase the amount of money that you're making per year, then you're going to be helping the world more. Let alone, the way that you make money is by providing value to the world. So if you're saying you don't want to make more money, what essentially you're saying is I don't really want to help people that much. I don't really want to improve the world that much, because in most cases, you get money as a result for how much you can help people, the value that you can provide for people. So I think it's an obvious cloak for people to try to appear either, I don't know, spiritual or selfless. Like, I don't want money for me. Okay, well, that wasn't the question though. The question was, you don't want to make more money? I mean, you could use that money. Money is power. Like, you could use that money to influence the world. It's so obvious. So it's so strange to me when people are acting like they don't want to make more money. I think it's just a cop-out, basically. Let me know what you think. I'm really curious to see what people think about that. Love. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants a good tribe, good friends, a love life, whether it's a partner or just to be appreciated. But again, a lot of people aren't actually taking action on these things. It's so weird. They have cognitive dissonance, which is basically just where you have a desire in your head, but you're not actually taking action on it in your life. So it's like you have this value, I want health, but you're not actually doing anything about it. And so there's like ambivalence. There's like an inner conflict that hasn't been reconciled. The difference between your conscious mind, your subconscious mind. There's something preventing you, which is also really interesting for even the most basic things like health, wealth, love, happiness. Happiness is probably one of the most interesting things that we can talk about because so many people think that it's going to come from different places. And even when you straight up just ask people, well, what do you think happiness is going to come from? Their answer won't even be their strategy. So they might say, well, I think that happiness, it comes from an internal sense of calmness and satisfaction and stoicism. I think that's where happiness comes from. But then in their life, you'll see them not actually living up to that. So a lot of people, they don't actually say their true beliefs, their true thoughts when you ask them a question. Humans are really strange in those regards. Like, I think it's because we have that shadow. We have this part of us that doesn't want to actually admit what we really think or what we really want. Like, you ask somebody, what do you want out of a relationship? Well, first of all, what they say isn't actually going to be deep down what they really want. Sometimes they don't even know what they really want, let alone they're going to just say, obviously, what they think is appropriate. Nobody's just going to say, like, yeah, I really want a really beautiful, hot woman, and we can just make some smoking love every single night, and she won't bug me about anything, and she'll just clean the house. Like, who's really going to say that? I mean, there's some people who will actually say that, who don't have a filter and they're not worried, or maybe they're just on a different level. They don't mind having a little bit of controversy. But a lot of times, especially if you ask women, what do you want out of a relationship? They're not going to actually say what they're attracted to and what they live, what they actually go after in real life. They'll say, I just want a guy who really cares about me for me and will open the door for me and is just really polite and is like a good father and has a good job. But then in real life, they're attracted to the bad boys. They're attracted to the guy who has social status, to the guy who isn't necessarily very polite or nice or kind. And so they have that dissonance in their mind where maybe they don't even understand. They don't even understand. And all of us have this, where we don't even understand our true driving forces inside of us that are making us behave in a way differently than what we even say or could articulate about our behavior. So, I find psychology really interesting for that reason. I haven't done a lot of sales in my life. I haven't done a lot of crazy amounts of social interaction with people. I mean, I've been a social animal to my own degree, but at the same time, to really get into psychology, it will it'll really help you start understanding how to interact with different people, how to influence different people, how to influence yourself, because that's a big part. That's a big part of what's going on with why we don't behave the way that we want to behave, right? So let's go ahead and see what AI said. I'm curious what AI said. So what's the best superpower? We'll get into that. That was just a prelude. That was asking for feedback above there. By the way, if you don't have ChatGPT, this has changed my life. My buddy Joe, he told me about ChatGPT maybe 6 months ago. It changed my life. I use it every single day. It's absolutely amazing. You got to get on it. And for some reason, the phone version of ChatGPT lets me ask it unlimited questions, but the online version, it limits me to like maybe, I don't know, 4 questions a day. So it's biased online. I don't know why. So get it on your phone. So it's saying it could be empathy. Empathy. All right, what's its definition? A range of extraordinary abilities that can significantly enhance human interaction, relationships, conflicts, communication, social change, emotional resilience, holistic leadership. Well, I don't know. I don't know if empathy really translates so directly into all of these things, right? So what's this definition of empathy? Because I think it's trying to package all of these benefits into one answer. You can't get, it's like saying you get all these answers for your one answer. You can, that's a superpower in itself. Social change, emotional resilience, that's a superpower in itself. It's trying to, that's a sneaky answer. Because just because you have empathy doesn't mean that you have emotional resilience, right? You can understand other people's perspectives and feelings to the nth degree. But that doesn't mean that when you're trying to build a business and you're going through the dark night of your soul, doesn't mean that you have the strength to get back up. So I think that was, I don't know about this answer. Let's read a little bit about what it says. Improve relationships. I can buy that. Allows individuals to understand and share the feelings of others, foster stronger interpersonal connections. That's true. Better relationships lead to enhanced collaboration, trust, and companionship, both personally and professionally. Yeah, so especially if you're saying like mind reading level empathy, because then you can really understand the feelings of others, because then you're literally seeing the feelings of others. Fostering stronger interpersonal connections. Well, you still need skill to foster stronger interpersonal connections, but empathy is a big part of it, so I can understand. I can definitely understand why it would say that. And then it says better relationships, collaboration, trust, companionship. Alright, we'll just stick with that explanation. I tend to agree. But that's an interesting way to say it. Superpower is empathy. Reminds me of a Bruce Lee quote that says, "You can only see through others when you've learned to see through yourself." So it's like, how do we get empathy? But by understanding ourselves in that same situation. Yeah, because empathy doesn't really come that easily. It doesn't. Like, let's say you're talking to someone who's morbidly obese. You're trying to have empathy. But if you've never been morbidly obese or sick with the same things that he's been sick with, it's like a sympathy. It's like a projected empathy. But let's say they're so fatigued, it's hard for them to get out of bed. If you've never had that same experience, you can't really empathize. You can just project. You can't really empathize, and people can feel it. Let's say someone had a divorce, right? You can't really empathize with that pain, that level of pain, unless if you've also had some kind of betrayal, relationship breakup where you lose so many years of trust and love and everything that goes into it, because there's layers of this thing, right? There's layers of loss, there's layers of emotions, there's layers of consciousness and struggle and pain and grief and denial. So in a lot of different ways, you really have to understand great loss to understand someone else's great loss. Which puts this into perspective, because anytime you're dealing with great loss or great suffering, it's an opportunity for empathy, because so many other humans are going through that same thing, the human condition. There's nothing new under the sun. That's really interesting. That's a nice little reframe of suffering and conflict that, that makes a lot of sense. The collective unconscious. Who talked about that? I think that was Carl Jung. Let's look this up. Collective unconscious. Carl Jung. Shared inherited unconscious mind common to all humanity, containing universal primordial images and ideas called archetypes. Yeah, so anything that we can pretty much experience in life, there's been another human who's experienced it, and that's the collective unconscious. It's the combination of all of humanity's experience, and we don't really talk about it that much. There's a lot in the shadow, which is basically what society says is inappropriate, or we don't talk about that. It's taboo, it's uncivilized. So, and this is another fascinating concept that I was learning about the other day is, everybody knows that people wear masks. Society kind of demands it. We try to civilize people. And so there's certain emotions, behaviors, energies that you feel that you don't express, that you don't want to admit that you have, because they're bad and they're wrong. And so you hide it, not only from other people, but you hide it from yourself. And so that's really interesting, because what happens is it's either suppressed or repressed. So suppression, let's say you're really sexual, but let's say for a woman, that's really, really looked down upon, right? Society says women shouldn't do that because that's going to destabilize society, and this is what happens in XYZ. But you're just like a really horny female. So you can't necessarily be proud of that in a lot of cases, right? So in America, it's actually not that much in the shadow. OnlyFans and pornography, and there's actually a big movement that's recently happened last 20, 30 years with the internet and just the shifting of American culture that's made it much less in the shadow. Some people are actually saying, we should legalize prostitution, da 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 da. And you see the furthering of a lot of the different sexual preferences coming out in the open. People are proud of it. It's not in the shadow anymore. So it's a very controversial type movement. And so back to the example. There's a woman, let's say she's not in America. Let's say she's in Afghanistan. She's a Muslim, right? Obviously over there it's in the shadow. So every culture has a different shadow. So over there, if she were to express that, then she would be completely shamed. She would lose all of her status. She would be shunned. She would not be able to really find a marriage, and people would just despise her, look down on her. And so she'd have to either hide it with suppression, which is like she consciously knows that she's like that. She really wants it, but she pushes it down. She hides it. She tries not to think about it. But all that energy is still there, right? All that energy is still there. It's kind of like the priests who try not to ever have sex ever. They're celibate, but they don't use the proper methods to sublimate the sex energy. And so it becomes perverted because the energy is still there. So whenever a person ends up suppressing it, it just gets pushed down, but it's like building up steam. and then it's going to have some kind of expression. And it can have expression in a lot of different ways. It can have expressions in chronic slow leaks, but it can also have a very violent burst. And it can end up being a major sickness in somebody's life, or a major outbreak of rage or emotions, a sudden disaster. There's a lot of different ways that it can express based on the person's tendencies and their weaknesses, right? It's obviously going to express in the person's weaknesses. Green tea, cloves, ginseng tea, great for the gut lining. Actually builds more mucus in the gut. So I'm curious what people think their superpower is. Curious what people think about the shadow. Curious what people think about the OnlyFans revolution, the legalized prostitution. Curious what people think about what happens when you suppress or repress these energies, where repression is even weirder than suppression. Repression is you don't even know that you have these energies. You're in denial. You're totally in denial. It would be like the saint being like, I have no sexual inclinations. I'm a purified monk. But deep down, he still has those urges, but he doesn't even admit it to himself. And so he's bullshitting himself to such an extent that the denial goes deep. The deception goes deep. Let's ask ChatGPT. What are some of the symptoms, physically and mentally, of suppression and repression? Should have told it emotions or biological cravings. Okay, so it's saying suppression, conscious decision to push down unpleasant thoughts or feelings, muscle tension. They don't talk about this, right? So we can talk about the health conspiracy in America. You know, we're not taught jack shit about health. We're not taught anything about so many things in America. So there's a conspiracy in the education system, or at least a problem, right? Whether or not it's a conspiracy. But there's a conspiracy in the health system, all right? I will go to town on that one. We're not taught hardly anything about health. All right, you can have fatigue because you're emotionally unhealthy. You're suppressing those emotions that you have towards your mother-in-law. No one talks about this. Digestive issues, changes in sleep patterns. Why aren't we taught psychology in school? Why aren't we taught about emotional well-being? Why aren't we taught about trauma release, our subconscious, shifting our beliefs, overcoming negative beliefs? Why aren't we taught about suppression, repression? It's absurd. Why aren't we taught about how emotions actually are what cause most of our decisions? Why aren't we taught persuasion? Why aren't we taught sales? So this is obviously causing a lot of stress, anxiety, irritability, difficulty concentrating, mood swings. Repression, unconscious defense mechanism, where distressing thoughts, feelings, or memories are blocked from awareness. So you're so disturbed by your own thoughts and emotions that you're blocking it from your awareness. They may not even recognize that they're engaging in repression. Pain, fatigue, immune response, psychosomatic, that's the brain, the body. Yeah, headaches, GI issues. So all these mystery illnesses, people think that thoughts and emotions don't cause physical symptoms. How ignorant can you possibly be? Are people not taught about the placebo effect? How your brain can literally create medicine? I mean, who doesn't know about the placebo effect? Your brain creates everything in your body. It can make a sugar pill turn into medicine. There's actually the American Council of Mind-Body Healing, filled with research and books talking about medical cases of people healing from chronic diseases based on belief, based on imagery, based on stress-related issues being resolved, emotional support systems. Some cardamom in there too. So that's pretty interesting. So my answer to the superpower question would be self-control. Because what doesn't that include? And when you really think about it, if you had ultimate self-control, you're just constantly controlling your emotions, you're constantly controlling all the chemicals in your brain, all the chemicals in your body. You can constantly create DMT, all the happiness hormones, you can constantly create a state of pleasure, a state of ecstasy. You have complete control over everything. It just means that whether you're getting tortured, self-control. My mind only does what I want. Boom. You're not feeling pain because you have complete self-control. Which there's a caveat, because if you don't think that your brain or your body is you thinking you control it, so that's pretty funny. That's actually pretty funny. But let's say you kind of included this in your definition of self, like, you can control your body and your mind, right? Well, actually, some people say that the mind is not the brain, that the mind instructs the brain. Some people say that the mind is in the brain. Like, the mind does not exist unless if there's a brain. But some people say that regardless of whether or not you have a brain, you exist, right? So some people call it the soul, that your mind literally instructs your brain. People talk about out-of-body experiences. So there's a lot of caveats, because this stuff, consciousness, is very complicated. Even the top neuroscientists in the world are debating about this. And there's a lot of different levels to this debate, because even if we're just talking about like the very minute details of what's happening in consciousness, like, for example, how our thoughts actually influence physical reality. You see, metaphysics is actually talking about this, in quantum physics too. Quantum just meaning energy, and the physics of how energy actually behaves. It's not anything like what you'd expect. It's nothing like this world, where when you observe something, it actually changes the physical matter of what you're observing. Just weird stuff like that. You'd never expect it to be. And how you cannot ever actually predict where subatomic particles are going to be. You think that you'd be able to predict it because they're just like moving in their orbits. Like you can predict the planets moving, but it's completely random. You cannot predict what they're going to do, and nobody knows why. All we know is that our thoughts and our observing them changes where they are. We've seen electrons actually teleport. It defies our logic. We don't understand it, and so it's so strange, and there's so much unknown about what's actually happening in terms of our thoughts, our consciousness, that everyone's still disagreeing. So whether or not the brain creates consciousness or consciousness exists without the brain, a lot of people are really dogmatic about it. The materialist paradigm. They just think that they're right, and they won't open their mind to any other possibility, which they're indoctrinated and they're stuck in their paradigm. You see, so science is interesting too, because science keeps on contradicting itself and awakening to new realizations every 50 to 100 years. But when you're in the paradigm that you're in with science, you think that there's nothing else. And so that's the mistake that people make with science, is that a lot of people don't give themselves enough room to admit that it's completely unproven and that they're just hypotheses. So anyway, kind of went on a tangent, but you know, let's talk about this. Let's talk about health, because health is a really interesting one. Well, we're not really taught about health for whatever reason. That's why I think it's a conspiracy. Health is one of the three biggest businesses in the world. Without health, what can you really do in life, right? So people talk about persuasion, people talk about doing this, building businesses, getting money. All that's all well and good, but if you don't have your health, you can't do any of that. And we see so many people losing their health, not only when they're old, but now when people are young. I mean, I just went through a really, really challenging 2 years of my life, living in a mold-infested garage unit. You couldn't even see mold. I couldn't smell the mold, but there was probably mold. And now I'm overcoming some fungal overgrowth still in my sinuses, affecting my GI system. And so, people younger and younger are actually going through more and more problems. Let's ask ChatGPT a question. How much are diseases increasing among younger people compared to, let's say, 70 years ago in USA? What is this doing to our energy levels quantifiably, and also our attention, IQ, and emotional stability based on measurable standards? Let's see what it says. ChatGPT is amazing. Google was not able to do this kind of computations. All right, let's see. Notably increased from 70 years ago. Yeah, I think we knew that. So it's not just older people, right? So I worked as a massage therapist for like 11 years. And what I noticed was you see so many rich guys, in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they're just so out of shape, and they just want you to fix them. I've literally worked with some of the richest guys you can possibly imagine. Like people who go to the Boca Hotel, and they own some of the biggest companies. I'm not going to say any names, but, I go to these people's houses with my massage table, and, I mean, these guys have everything, but they're constantly always telling me about, a lot of them are fat, a lot of them, they just have pain all over their body. It's just horrible. So I'd have to work on them 3 days a week, and I just knew. They'd tell me they have gout. They can't walk. They can't even walk anymore. They can't go on hikes. They have knee pain. They can hardly work out. I mean, what kind of life is that? And I'm not blaming these guys. It's because, look, society has changed in such weird ways, and we haven't been taught what's making us change, that we're eating all these poisons, and food is so fake and unnatural that naturally we just get all these problems that they just make us in pain all day long. And, a lot of people don't think that's coming, but like me, it hit me. Mold, I wasn't taught about mold. And when something comes after you like that, you don't know what to do. I started reading books and books and books and watching podcasts, and you have to learn about herbs and exercise and mental health and meditation and stress and the nervous system, and you gotta just learn. And you start to learn like crazy, and you just wish that you knew this stuff before, so that, number one, you wouldn't have lived in a garage unit that could potentially have mold. But in a lot of other people's situations, drinking out of plastic bottles for 20, 30, 40 years, drinking water with fluoride and chlorine for 40 years, eating food with pesticides and emulsifiers and artificial colors for 30, 40 years. And it sounds like a long time, but a lot of us now are like 33. So we've been doing it for 33 years. I mean, you look at the average food. Let's see if we can do this. Average food in not McDonald's, in Walmart. Let's see. Yeah, you see fried chicken. People don't think it's that bad. Just normal chicken. What does that have? Well, antibiotics, pesticide-fed food. Those are not natural chickens. They're diseased chickens. Almost everything that you can find has a lot of issues. Like, all of this is unhealthy. If you eat any of this is all horrible for you in such profound ways. And people don't know. People don't know this is causing their acne. It's literal poisons. I mean, you look at Robert Kennedy Jr., he's trying to outlaw all these food colorings, these food preservatives, the glyphosate, which is why it's important to eat organic. It's like you're eating these pesticides that literally destroy the intestines of the insects. That's how it kills the insects. And then we have a huge rise of GI issues, IBS, Crohn's, diverticulitis. Let's look that up. What percent of people have IBS? Between 10 and 15% of the adults have IBS. That's not good. You start destroying the digestive system, all kinds of problems happen, believe me. Long COVID did that to me. And I'm still recovering from it. Having a little bit of fungal overgrowth in your intestines, some mold in your sinuses. All this stuff it ruins your life, believe me. Like, I'm showing you guys my recovery journey for a reason, because everyone's susceptible. And we haven't been taught. It's horrible. And so many people are actually walking towards this disaster and they don't even realize it. So, what were we doing? We were looking at this. Walnuts. People don't know how many of these to eat. They don't know what's happening if they eat too many walnuts. The most people know about walnuts is that they look like a brain, so they're healthy for your brain because they have a little bit of omega-3. But what most people don't know is that if you eat more than 10 of them, they're overloading your digestive system, and they actually have a high degree of omega-6 fats, which cause inflammation. So you shouldn't eat too many of them. Whereas, like, if you eat some chia seeds or if you eat pumpkin seeds, then it has a better balance. Most people aren't eating enough omega-3s. So, what else? Oats. People think that this is a healthy food, but this has gluten and gliadin. And if you actually, if you look at what this does to mammals, if you want to get your horse to gain weight, you give it oats. If you want to be lean, you give it horse gram, which is like lentils. But if you give a horse oats, it fattens it up. If you want to fatten up an animal, you give it oats because it has gluten and gliadin, which are proteins, and a lot of people can't digest it. It's not a natural protein for us to digest. I'm not even talking about celiac, right? People think that celiac, I'm not celiac, I'm not lactose intolerant. It's not like that. So, in the real world, if you're walking through a wheat field, you actually wouldn't want to eat it because your body doesn't have the digestive enzymes to eat it. You wouldn't start picking this and eating it. This looks like grass. You naturally would not want to eat this. You can't. So it's an unnatural food, actually. Whereas if you're walking by a mango or some apples, you're going to want to eat it. Your body salivates. Your body doesn't salivate for this because it doesn't have the enzymes. This looks disgusting. You wouldn't eat this. You cannot eat this. It's only through modern day agriculture. It's an agricultural food that, if you're starving, you're going to eat it. So we haven't evolved with this. This has only been happening for the past 6,000 years. Let's actually check that. How long have humans been eating wheat? Okay, so it's longer than what I was saying. Domestic wheat began around 10,000 years ago. All right, so that's nothing in the schemes of what we evolved to actually be able to eat. And so the problem with eating this, have you ever noticed when you eat bread or oats or any kind of grain, you start to get the munchies? Well, that's actually happening because it has a protein. I think it's called amylopectin A, and that converts into opioids. Converts into opioids. What protein in wheat causes an opioid effect? I think it's amylopectin A. Yeah, okay, so it's from the gliadin. Peptides called gluten exorphins, which have opioid-like effects. Amylopectin A, I guess, was the inflammatory. What does amylopectin A do? Okay. It's talking about the biology of it. So for years and years and years, I loved eating quick oats. Oh my gosh, I could just eat them forever. Same thing with bread. Whole grain bread. It's a junk food. It's a junk food. You know, they put wheat at the bottom of the food pyramid. Conspiracy. You should read, if you want to know more about this, Dr. William Davis Wheat Belly. All this stuff. Bagels. Brown rice isn't really that bad. Potatoes, depends on who you are. They can really make a lot of people feel lethargic. But you know, actually healthy. We actually found something healthy. So, we haven't been taught how to differentiate between fake foods and real foods. All of this is garbage. Most people know that, right? So, that's why I would say self-control. But talking more about the health, most people aren't really investing in their health. Most people haven't been educated on their health. Imagine in India, people actually, they would have like a grandma or somebody who knew about herbs. They have like an herbalist. But most mothers and grandmas in India knew all the herbs of what to do when you get sick, when you have a fever, when you have they know how to diagnose all the different symptoms in your body, when you have acne, when you have a rash. They were just masters because that was passed down, that was valued, and they knew we don't have doctors, we don't have these drugs to rely on in India, so they had to actually, as a matter of survival, know how to use nature to be able to survive, to clean their water, to detox, to cure indigestion. But nowadays, what do? We just go and take drugs. We take Pepto-Bismol. We trust all of these things. The pharmaceutical industry, the drug industry. But what's it doing? Are we healthier because of it? Why not? Well, it's not like I'm against every single drug out there. You know, corticosteroids, I actually had a allergic reaction to mangoes. I climbed the mango tree and I sliced a lot of these mangoes off the tree, and the sap gone. I mean, I just blew up all over my body. I was covered in this pink ointment, but it didn't do anything. It just kept on spreading for 2 weeks. I had to go get steroids, and the steroids fixed it in like a matter of, I'd say, a week. So there's some things. It's absolutely miraculous. I mean, drugs can really save lives, and it's amazing. But at the same time, what if someone's getting stomach pain because they're eating toxins in the food? Well, we don't have the education to actually know. Well, if I look at the ingredients on these hot wasabi peas, how do I know if it's actually causing me GI distress? Are we taught, avoid pesticide-laden vegetables? So vegetables can actually be destroying your digestive tract? Have we been taught about the clean 15 or the dirty dozen? Have we been taught how to look at ingredients labels and actually be able to avoid all of these horrible ingredients that could be causing not just your acne, but your energy issues, your headaches, worse PMS, your brain fog. So this has, I guarantee you, layers and layers and layers of chemicals, preservatives. I mean, this is going to have just a whole list of things that sound like it came out of a chemistry lab. Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's like you look at people's shopping carts and you're just thinking, wow, like I feel bad for this person. Like that's just all poison right there. Even these peaches, they're on the dirty dozen. They're covered in pesticides. If you don't get it organic, I'm sad to say, it's healthy food covered with poison. People don't think so, but, look at the health statistics it's showing. Eggs, well, if they're not free-range, cage-free, organic, then what are you really eating there? Like, is that going to be filled with all kinds of strange hormones? And what kind of food was that chicken living in? And was it living in a coop with like all these dead chickens and feces everywhere? There was actually a movie, Forks Over Knives, that shows the horrible conditions of chicken coops, the cows, the pigs, the slaughterhouses. It's so filled with disease. That's why they're constantly using antibiotics. And if you actually saw it, you would not want to eat those animals. It is literally just, not only are you eating a corpse, but you're eating a diseased corpse that has been pretty much just pumped with chemicals to put down all the bacteria. And they're selling you that. They don't care. They do not care. So, what else did I want to talk about? What else could be interesting to talk about before I sign off here? Give me 1 second. I'm going to get some more tea. Alright, so I remembered what I want to talk about. So a lot of people, they don't know how to change their bodies, right? So a lot of people don't know how to change their bodies. People don't know how to lose weight. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Well, why is it so hard? Is it really just self-control? Is it, well, what's really going on? Is it self-control? Is it the wrong workout routine? Is it the wrong diet? Are they not good enough at tracking their calories? Is it true that it's all just about calories? Are they just not working out hard enough? Is it a lack of discipline? Most people just think that it's their genes. I don't have enough discipline. I don't exercise consistently. I don't know what to eat. I just overeat. They think that they're eating too much. I just have such a huge appetite. I don't know what it is. So, most people know that over 66% of Americans are overweight. And all the different problems that creates. It's not just aesthetics, and the emotional problems that it causes, because a lot of people hate how they look. And people can actually have a mental disorder because of that. Like that causes stress. People really get down on themselves, and it makes you just that much more negative when you have a negative body image. Today I actually overate a little bit. I thought my digestion was really strong in the morning, so I ate 3 avocados, and I felt really, really heavy for the whole day. And I was kind of getting down on myself because I went shopping and I was trying on clothes. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and everybody kind of has body dysmorphia. Everybody's comparing because we compare ourselves to like Arnold and the bodybuilders on Instagram, and we just want to look as good as them. So that's our standard. So, I wasn't super happy because I was kind of bloated and I felt sluggish, and so everyone kind of feels like this. And it did make me a little bit more negative. I felt a little bit more negative because I was like, well, I was excited to come out here and get clothes, but now that I'm seeing that my stomach is so bloated because I had such a big breakfast and my digestion isn't really on point today, I'm feeling a little bit lethargic, and then that influences my mind, and I'm feeling like, oh man, I have a little bit of fat on my love handles. And sometimes it's not even about how lean your body actually is. Sometimes it's just in the mind. But let alone if you're actually overweight, if you're actually obese, because like over 33% of Americans are obese now. What percent of Americans are overweight or obese, and how fast is it increasing? So this is a function of the health conspiracy. Oh, there it is. Yeah, saying that I can't ask it that anymore. It's going into sales mode. Well, guess what? Google has a built-in AI who never gets tired. 42%. It's even more now. We used to say 33. It's easier to remember. 74% are overweight. Oh my God. So only 25% of people are actually not overweight. What? That's more than I even thought. Oh my God. So just in 25 years, we've increased it that much. It's getting worse and worse and worse. It's like exponential. So this is why I say it's a conspiracy. It's absolutely a conspiracy. More and more fake food, more and more fake health food. Even the fitness industry is becoming fake and fad-like. I'm really disgraced. It's a disgrace. I'm not disgraced, but I think that the fitness industry in America is a disgrace because they aren't getting to the root of the problem. I think it's so fatty, like FADDY and FATTY, because they're not actually helping people. I think they have good intentions, but a lot of the supplements that they're selling are just riddled with preservatives. So much so that's causing more problems. Like, these are not healthy foods. People are taking these supplements and they just have all these artificial flavors and preservatives. They aren't really food. It's worse than food. It doesn't supplement your food. It's poison. I used to eat this whey protein and I would get this acne, like these big cystic acne. You know what that is? It's your body pushing out the toxins to the most benign organ that it has and try to excrete it from your body. Your skin. That's where it pushes it to. It's better to be in your skin than in your organs. If it stayed in your organs, you would have some big issues right away. But it pushes out all these toxins and it would just plague me. I'd have the casein shakes, the whey protein, all the microgreens. Well, that's not real food. That's not real food. Come on, the pre-workouts is just jacking up your nervous system with caffeine. You know what that does to you? It has none of the nutrients of coffee, by the way, the antioxidants in coffee. All right, so I have to tell you, people don't understand the impact of caffeine on your body. People are drinking all these energy drinks and coffee around the clock and mocha froca lattes, and not only the sugar, but let's just talk about the caffeine. It overloads your nervous system. Most people don't even know about their nervous system. No, people don't even understand how the nervous system controls every organ in your body. Every cell in your body is basically whether or not you're stressed, okay? it's a complicated system, but it's not hard to understand. So it's kind of like a lot of athletes understand when you overtrain, you have to take sometimes a couple weeks light. Why is that? It's because your nervous system got so overloaded that even when you're resting, your nervous system, your overall state of your entire body is still in this shock level to where it's not really relaxing. You think you're relaxing, but you're still recovering your nervous system. It's in this stage of alarm, okay? So it's still in the state of alarm. It's subconscious is what I'm saying. So a lot of people who lift weights, they understand you can only keep on lifting more and more weight if your body's in super compensation mode where you're getting stronger from your workouts. But if you work out too hard, your nervous system has to rest. You can just go to the gym and hit it too hard to where you'll burn out, which just means you have too much stress hormone, you're not going to get stronger, you start getting weaker. And so we understand, that's why we say work out 3 times a week. Take deload weeks, take rest days. Sometimes, like I'm on a deload right now, where I'm taking at least a week, sometimes even 2 weeks, just really light. Like I do half as much in the gym. And so what that means is your nervous system has to rest. Back to coffee. Back to caffeine. Caffeine stimulates your nervous system to be in fight or flight mode, all right? And it does it in a real big way. So if you're constantly doing this every single day, you're constantly stressing yourself out, it's kind of like your body thinks like, oh my God, like, we gotta go, this is serious, like, chop, let's go. It constantly uses that resource more and more and more. And it's strenuous on your body. You're either in that mode or you're in the like, let's chill, let's love, let's digest, like life's good. Like, oh, like I just feel so, like life is so easy, everything's just like, I'm blessed. You want to be in that mode a lot, all right? You want to balance them a lot, but people are in fight or flight too much, and the caffeine's putting them into fight or flight. And it's unfortunate because we already have too much of that, like overstimulation of social media, relationships, work, physical stressors. Your body's trying to detox from all the food, all the pressures that you put on yourself, and negative thoughts. They all put you into fight or flight. How many people are meditating, taking bubble baths, walking on the beach without a podcast? You know, just like sitting down and really enjoying a book with some tea. Like, how often do you feel like the weight's off your shoulders to where you just feel like, wow, like life's amazing. Like, I can just lie in the grass and look at this spider on my finger and just like, oh wow, it's reacting. Like, wow, it can see me. Like, how often can you just act like a kid and just laugh and just observe the differences between the trees and the leaves and just look around and be like, this is crazy, this world that we live in? Or how much are you under the constant thought of, oh my God, am I going to make enough money this month? Where's my life going? Am I even a failure? Am I even worth anything? Do I have a girlfriend? Oh my God, this other person is more beautiful than me. Or like, I don't have high status. Like, how much are you feeling like that? Or maybe it's even just like, oh my God, I'm online. Oh, look at these new games. Like, oh, I'm getting bombarded by 18,000 different ads every day. How many ads does the average person see a day? It's going to be shocking. 4,000 to 10,000 advertisements per day. Poof! And that's stealing your attention. And there's a direct correlation between how much you're shifting attention and multitasking and negative emotionality. Which means the more you're able to focus and remain calm and go deep, there's circuits in your brain that relate that to pleasure, reward, relaxation, satisfaction. People think it's like some good thing, like I'm so fast, I'm so busy, like I'm constantly like, oh, email, oh, WhatsApp, oh, my work, oh, respond to text, oh, respond back to email, oh, audiobook. No, like, There's a book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. It actually stresses you out, back to the central nervous system. You can't focus when you're in stress mode. You learn the best when you're in a relaxed mode. So how often are we just slowing down, you know? It's like back in the day, we would just go around a fire, we would just tell stories, we just look at the stars, nothing to do. You know, no 10,000 ads bombarding you, making you feel like you gotta do something. People meditated, people sung. You know, you tell stories, you tap deep into the human unconscious, you deload your emotions, you'd laugh, you'd cry, you'd be real with the people that you care about. We wouldn't be so segmented, alone in our rooms with our computers and all the vices that might come with that when you're trying to emotionally cope versus, you know, really healing with your tribe. And people really heal with their tribe. Just being in the different presence. You know that feeling when like it's getting deep and like it's getting juicy. Someone's telling a good story. Everyone starts feeling like together. That's very healing. Versus, you know, people just binge watching Mandalorian. Love that show. But, you know, it's not the same as having authentic human connection. It's a great book called The Blue Zones. Talks about people who are able to live past 100 with many more people in their society. And not only does it talk about longevity, but it talks about quality of life. And so the blue zones, the places that have the most centenarians, people living past 100, one of the factors that they notice is that they have deep and rich variety of social connection. Talking about the effect of your social network, the effect of how you interact with people on your health, you see. And positive emotionality, having something to do with your time with other people, for other people, also impacts your physical health. So you're looking at all these different factors, you know, let's look it up. What were the main factors of the blue zones that let people live into their hundreds? Let's see. Plant-based diet, interesting. Regular physical activity, strong social connections, sense of purpose. That makes sense. You're only going to give me 4? There's others. Not drinking a lot of alcohol, good sleep. You can tell me more than that. There was more than that. Life purpose. I think they also looked at religiosity. Let's see. Diet, connections, right tribe, belong, loved ones first. They put their loved ones first. Here we go. Americans spend more than 100 billion annually on diets. 100 billion. Within 3 months of starting a diet, about 10% of people will quit. That's it? I thought it would be more than that. I thought it would be like 50% of people. Within 7 months, only 10% will remain. Okay. So most people can stay on it for more than 3 months. But within 7 months, 90% of people are done. 2 years later, less than 5% will still be adhering to the diet. Well, that's because the diets are so weird and stupid. You know, Brandon Carter is saying, you want to lose weight fast? Take your body weight, multiply it by 10. That's the amount of calories you should eat. People be starving to death on that diet. People be eating their livers on the inside of their body. So many of these diets are just, that's why I say fitness conspiracy is a fad and it's a scam. $100 billion on diets and exercise programs. You know, We're focusing on count your carbs, count your macronutrients, count your calories. People aren't going to do that. People are not going to do that long term. They're going to stop doing that. And then what happens when they stop doing that? What are you talking about? You're advocating weight loss without counting calories? What about the law of thermodynamics? What about counting macronutrients? What about all of the insulin that you're going to spike when you're eating all these carbs? Well, what about when human beings actually didn't have the apps to count the calories? They didn't know what calories were. They didn't know what macronutrients were. They didn't know how much protein was in nuts or beef. And weren't they still healthy? Weren't they still lighter than they are now? Does that have anything to do with their hormones, with the state of toxins in their body, with their lifestyle, with their emotions and their social behavior, how calm they are, their health of their nervous system, how stressed they are, if they're sleeping well or if they're constantly bombarded by blue light, not deep sleep, toxins everywhere in their life, the water that they drink is laced with toxins, stress, caffeine. It's obvious to me. Is there a big sexy fitness program that you can get that's going to detox your body and teach you how to actually eat foods that aren't poisonous, to recalibrate your hormones, to decrease your stress? Are all of these fitness programs teaching you about, let's teach you a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy and neuro-linguistic programming, CBT, NLP. It's actually a lot fancier than it sounds. It's just basically reformatting your perspective on things. It's brain training. No, they're just like, we're just going to do 50 push-ups a day. We're just going to do a circuit training, calories, macronutrients, da, 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 da. It's like Stone Age. It's like barbaric, if you ask me. I just see them as like barbarians, just like hitting a castle with like a club, thinking that they're going to like make a difference. It's like, oh my gosh. And then 7 months later, there's only 10% of people left hitting a castle with a club. I'm going to eventually make a big difference here. After 2 years, there's only 5% of people left. Oh, eventually I'll defeat this fortress. I'm just persistent enough that they told me just count the calories. There's so many people, they count the calories, their metabolism is messed up, their hormones are messed up, their organs aren't healthy, they're not getting the sunlight, they have nutrient deficiencies, they're toxic, they have a gut microbiome that's disrupted. You have to change the gut microbiome so that the hormones get healthy. They're not being taught how to actually live a fulfilling life. They're stressed out. They're eating Crystal Light, which is all these fake sugars. It's just, the fitness gurus are actually saying, eat the Crystal Light, it has 0 calories. It's like saying, go up to that castle and just keep on beating the castle with that club because, you're burning calories. It's not going to do the job. If you want to overcome your obstacles, take down the castle of all your barriers, take down that wall of defenses that's preventing you from getting into the fortress of your dreams, you have to be a little bit more sophisticated than just beating it with a club. Burn more calories, exercise more, go on this crazy diet. It's like, oh my gosh, do you even know anything about the human physiology? I'm talking about the fitness experts. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming anybody who's struggled in health. I have too. The American paradigm and the American perspective is barbaric. It's absolutely a disgrace, the way that we're approaching a lot of these things. Who's teaching about the microbiome, the second brain, and gut health? It's just digestion. Who cares about digestion? It's only what creates your body and all your organs and all your hormones. Who cares about nutrients? Who cares about detoxing? We gotta count calories, man. We gotta get you on this low-carb ketogenic diet. That's a secret. We gotta just get you on the CrossFit workouts. We gotta get you on the interval training. It's Wow, really? Like, you're not going to teach people the literal cornerstones of their health? Like, how not to eat poison, how to actually have strong digestion, how to have a healthy gut microbiome. You're not going to actually talk about the influence of the mind on the body. You're not going to talk about all of the toxins that are stimulating the nervous system and causing people to be addicted and stressed. You're not going to talk about the poison and the chemical impact of the food that we're eating on our nervous system and our stress level, our anxiety level. You're not going to talk about how there's hormone disrupting chemicals in our food, in our water, that are throwing the thyroid out of whack. They're decreasing guys' testosterone levels, increasing estrogen levels. You know, you see these guys with like more man boobs. Like, I actually have some pretty good man boobs too, but you know, estrogens, toxins, heavy metals, like no one's talking about this stuff. They just assume that people don't care. Like, people don't care about their well-being. People don't care about their health. They don't want to listen to you talk about, you know, all this complicated stuff. You know, we're going to have to. We're going to have to make it simple. We're going to have to make it fun. We're going to have to make it important. We're going to have to take it little by little, because, you know, what about this? What about, like, inspiration or motivation for real, true health? Well, people will care if they actually know how good it feels to be healthy, all the benefits of gut health. If I just talk about the microbiome, but I don't talk about how, you know, it secretes oxytocin and testosterone and serotonin and dopamine, which, what does that mean? Oxytocin means your skin is going to look beautiful. Less acne. It's going to make your skin heal faster. It's going to make you feel like you're more sociable. You want to be around people more. You're more empathetic. We talked about empathy. Testosterone. My God, most people only think that testosterone is about bulking up, looking like Rocky Balboa and Arnold, Tom Platz. Well, what if I told you that it was also about focus, clarity, confidence, energy, leadership, being able to take risks, decreasing anxiety and fear, making you feel invincible, growing your beard? Who doesn't want to grow more of their manly beard, have a deeper voice, be a better leader? Healthy testosterone levels do this, you see. Interesting, you look at one of America's most famous strength trainers, Mark Ripto. A lot of people know about Mark Ripto. For over 30 years, he was seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guys come into the gym, into his programs, and they were depressed, they were having marriage issues, they were, you know, midlife crisis. They don't like their job, they feel like they're not going anywhere in life, spiritual crisis, feeling anxiety and depression. He put them on a little bit of TRT, a little bit of testosterone. This isn't steroid level. This is just a little bit of testosterone. You know the mental benefits that these guys had? Their psychologists won't give them a little bit of testosterone, but was helping them with all their mental issues. You know, he specialized in this. He specialized in helping guys get through their midlife crisis. You know, I don't want to work out. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to have sex with my wife anymore. I don't want to play with my kids. What's wrong with me? I'm broken. Well, it could be that toxins are accumulating so much, all the plastics, the estrogens, all the junk in your body, decreasing your hormones, you get depressed. It's an energetic depression. It's not a mental problem. Your body has so much poison, it's affecting your brain. And so you get them on testosterone. Testosterone is not the solution that I necessarily recommend, because it just artificially jacks you up. You know, I recommend you taking out all the toxins so that your testosterone levels go naturally back to where they were. Be healthy, eat ginseng and ashwagandha, get your magnesium, all your micronutrients, do some weight training, some interval training, take more risks. All these things can increase your testosterone. Shilajit increases your testosterone. There's a lot of things you can do to increase your testosterone. It's a lot about not doing certain things to increase your testosterone. I have a entire program on increasing your testosterone. Avoiding toxins is one huge part of increasing your testosterone. It's not just about taking the T booster, and it's not just about eating superfoods that are going to increase your testosterone. A lot of it is mental too. You can increase your testosterone levels just by how you think. Because if you have anxiety, then that's creating more cortisol. And the more cortisol you have, the less testosterone you have. So you can't be this worried person. So relaxation, getting your nervous system into the state where you're relaxed, you feel successful, you feel like the man. People think that that's what happens when you have the testosterone. But you can actually increase testosterone just by having those thoughts and really feeling it in your body and actually relaxing. Sometimes it can take weeks or months to clear all the emotions and let your nervous system heal. That's why we talk about long-term stuff. Little things that you can do every day that actually calm your nervous system, make you a healthier man, make you a healthier person. People just want to take a supplement. Like, I'm just going to take the supplement. It's going to, give me the muscles. Yeah, well, being sold a dream. And unfortunately, that has all kinds of toxins in it. So, you normalize the hormones, everything just happens effortlessly. People have these thyroid issues. They think, I have this low thyroid, so I have to take this medication. Well, what if you had the problem with your thyroid because you had a lot of toxins or an iodine deficiency? People aren't thinking about their organs. People aren't thinking about all these different problems that can happen. Heavy metals in your brain. Who's talking about how to detox heavy metals in their brain? I talk about all this in my program. This is easy stuff. This is easy stuff. This is not super complicated. I lay it all out. This is how you eat healthy. This is what you don't eat. This is how you get rid of the heavy metals. This is how you do a heavy metal detox. It's not rocket science. It's not super complicated. It's just, it's Health 101. You want to start talking about Health 102 and Health 103. That's actually how to actually heal yourself when you have a disease. That's hard. When you actually have a full-blown disease and you have to heal half of your liver, that's hard. That's where, you have to be a professional. You have to know the intricacies and have evidence and know all the nuances of what to do, what not to do, But if you're just tired, if you just have some sleep issues, if you just feel like your emotions aren't where you want them to be, you can still heal fairly easily. But most people aren't even following Health 101. They aren't even following Health 101. Not only are they not following it, they don't even know that they're not following it. They think that they're healthy, eating non-organic, non-grass-fed meat. It's just, and that's why you see 74% people overweight. And overweight is just an indication that your hormones are off. It's not just that these people are eating more. Most people see overweight people and they think, oh, they're just eating more. They're just eating too much. They're just not exercising. No, that is so wrong. That is not what's happening. Someone who's really that overweight, there's something going on with something deeper than that. It's not just that they're eating too much. There's something going on with their metabolism, their hormones, their vitamin and nutrient levels, their sleep, their stress. There's something that's causing a dysregulation if they're seriously that overweight. I'm not talking about just a little bit overweight, Sometimes people just like to eat. They just have a bigger body. Not just talking about a little overweight. So if you're seriously overweight, you might want to start paying attention to actually learning Health 101, because all these things stockpile and you don't want to end up being that person when you're 40 or 50 to where you're having a serious life crisis and you're saying, wow, I just feel off. What's going on? Externally my life seems okay, but internally I'm just a wreck. I can hardly even feel what it's like to be happy anymore. So that's why it's important to stop poisoning yourself. So anyway, we've talked a lot about a lot. It was fun. Feel like I learned a lot. Had some good times hanging out with you guys. So I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna read. Got a lot of good books here. A lot of good books. You know, always have a lot of good books to be reading. Right now, this one's really interesting, talking about the shadow, suppressed, repressed emotions, understanding yourself, understanding why you might be feeling the way that you are. You know, one interesting thing that I read yesterday was, you know, a lot of people, they repress their bad side, but a lot of people repress their good side too. A lot of people don't want to seem like they're coming off like they're trying to show off, or, you know, they don't want to show people how much they care. They don't want to show people how much they love people. They don't want to show people how interested they are in people. These are all beautiful qualities, but we hide them. We hide even our best qualities because society has taught us, you know, that's not manly, that's too, like, sentimental, that's not appropriate. You know, don't show off. Don't act like you're special, Jimmy. Like, don't act like you're special, like you're some kind of, like, leader or some kind of, like, philanthropist, or, you know, so people hide. And, you know, it's interesting. Didn't Christ say, let your light shine before men so that they can see your good works, glorify your Father in heaven? Totally different than, you know, trying to show off because you just want all the glory. But, you know, I think it's, if you really do actually love people, if you really actually do care about people, you know, it's important to understand if you've been suppressing that, if you've been suppressing your own noble character, you know, deep inside your heart, you know, maybe you, only when you're alone you let yourself feel these feelings of love. Maybe, you know, you might go to your grave. People might not ever know how much you love them. It's a shocking book, Owning Your Own Shadow. You know, how fake we are. And, you know, it makes sense of it. It makes sense of why we do it. It all makes sense. There's a time and place for everything, but it's like this. How long are you going to stay fake? How long are you going to stay banished from the Garden of Eden? Are you ever going to return to the Garden of Eden? Because basically when you were a kid, you were so honest. You didn't know how to wear a mask, right? Then you got socialized. This is like getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Your eyes were open. You ate the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. You got kicked into society, and society said, this is wrong. You should be ashamed of this. You start just feeling like, oh man, like, I understand good and bad now. I can't just, like, always be myself. I can't just always say my mind. I can't just always be me. I have to get a job. I have to act right. This is right. This is wrong. When I do this, people don't like it. So I'm gonna adapt so I can survive, so I can, like, make friends, so that I can actually, like, not lose my job. And so you become fake. You learn how to act. And, you know, it's okay to act. We have to act. But so many people, they get caught up in the act, and they never understand how to return back to that childlike innocence. It's not even a goal. You know, they don't even understand how phony they are. They think that they are the act. You know, I don't think we even understand how much we lie, how much we put on, how much we front. And then we don't actually reconnect or actually know who we really are. It's like we've become the act. We've become the ego. It's what you build to survive. It's your persona. It's just your persona to get things done. It's a creation of yours. It's not you. You've created it. It's what you've created. It's like a character that you just, like, puppet around so that you could get things done and not die. But that's not you. And a lot of times we don't even realize who we really are. what we really feel like if you didn't have to act, if you're just like a kid, if you didn't have a filter, if there was no right or wrong, if there was no putting on a mask, if there was no hiding, if you really just always said what you think, what you value, if you didn't have to like pretend to be tough or like I'm not nervous or like I'm not sad. I can't show people that I'm sad about life. What would that do with my job, my friends, and my respect and my reputation? Like, and all of it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, are you really connected to who you are, what you really want? Because the ego, it takes over, a lot of people could probably even say, like, what is this guy talking about? Like, he's saying that I should just return back to, like, the state of, like, being, like, a little kid? Nothing right or wrong? How is that even possible? Like, we have to really think about this. Because it's not that necessarily we can instantly revert back to it, because society does have a shadow. And if we revert back to it, a lot of people, they will judge us. They will shun us. They will think that we're weird. It's so outside the norm. And a lot of that in society is to the extreme. Not all of the social shadows should be played into. Some of them you have to. But at the very least, let's say, I guess, just make it kind of personal to how I'm seeing it right now. I have an ego. I have a persona that I'm putting on right now. You only show people a certain amount of who you really are and the truth. It just makes sense. There's going to be consequences. But, being aware and being in touch with who you really are beyond your act, that takes something. That takes awareness. That takes observation. I'm still really observing that in myself. I'm still really observing who I really am beyond all the thoughts that I have that, you constantly have based on what you're trying to accomplish. It's your act thoughts. But how much time do you actually spend thinking about who you really are? What kind of world you really would ideally live in? What kind of thoughts you really have? And how you really feel about things, how you really feel about your life, the world, people, beyond your judgments. Like, what do you hate about people? What do you hate about the world? What do you hate about your family? What do you love about your family? Like, all the things that you think you should never think about or say, that's really, that's you doing shadow work. That's you doing shadow questions, asking yourself, well, why do I feel the way that I do about that? I really do have, like, hatred for this or hatred for that. Like, or I really do have love for this and love for that. I really do love Kirby. I actually do really love these childlike things. But, you wouldn't tell that to a lot of people because people would just have all these judgments. And sometimes you don't even let yourself admit that you like these things. What would you do all day if there was no such thing as, like, being judged or survival? Would you just, like, make cartoons? Would you just watch cartoons? Like, and why do you feel like that? And, even about what you really think is going on here. Like, what do you think the purpose of your life is? What do you think the purpose of this universe is? Do you think that there's a God? Do you think that there's an afterlife? And how do we go towards all those things? How do we go towards, like, personal development? How do we go towards nobleness of character? How do we overcome our weaknesses? How do we overcome our bad habits? How do we overcome our addictions? How do we overcome our pettiness? How do we get thicker skin and become less influenced by others or negative influences and forces? How do we actually gain wisdom? What is wisdom? What is understanding? What is... how do I actually become blissful? How do I actually become, like, more loving? How do I actually uncover who I really am? Because it's like everyone knows when hard times comes, it shows people's true colors. Well, if you don't have hard times, how do you know what your true colors are? How do I know my unconscious? How do I know what I would act like in certain situations? There's so much below the surface that we don't know about what's really there. Is that me? Are the thoughts that I think really me? So, anyways, I thought it was interesting thinking about, deep down in people's hearts, what are they really feeling? What are they really doing deep down in their hearts versus what they show? Everyone's just like, we enter the human stage together, and we're all playing our act. We all have our words and our fancy words, and we all, kind of chuckle, and the social flow of what happens during our interaction when we're together. It's always different. It's always sometimes surface level. But what if you could really see into who people really were, their true thoughts, their true heart, their true intentions, their true desires, everything true about them? What if there was actual authenticity, like real authenticity? It'd be really different, right? I feel like that would be really, really interesting. Now, that would be a superpower. That would be a superpower. And so that's why Carl Jung is so interesting. He talks about, we were talking about the collective unconscious, what people really suffer with, what people really feel that we don't talk about. How do you really feel about people's phoniness? How do you feel about people's superficiality? How do you feel about people's narcissism? How do you feel about people's lack of empathy? How do you feel about people's cruelty? How do you feel about people's lack of sympathy, lack of altruism, lack of charity, lack of caring about you? How do you feel about being ignored? How do you feel about being used? How do you feel about being objectified? And do you actually show that, or do you hide it? So much of what we think, feel, we're too scared to say. We don't want to show people. We're ashamed. We want to pretend like I'm perfect. Like, oh no, I'm such a good person. People just moral signal all the time, virtue signal all the time. Why? We're so ashamed. We're so ashamed of our feelings, our thoughts, our actions. What if everybody instantly knew all your thoughts, all your actions, everything that you ever did? How would you feel? How ashamed would you be? That's the level of your shadow. What if everyone could always read your mind? Would you care? Well, the amount that you care is the level of your shadow, because you disown it. You don't want it to be known. You want to hide it. That's how much shame you're carrying around all the time. That's how much shame and guilt. What if everyone knew everything that you ever did? Would you care? Would you feel guilty? Would you feel ashamed? Well, that's the level of your guilt that you're carrying around all the time. It's in your shadow. It's still there. You would love to hide it, and a lot of it is hidden, but you wouldn't tell people. Why? Because you're ashamed of it. You want to hide it. But it's there. It's you. It's what happened. Well, I'm not sure if it's actually you. You're not defined by your past, but your emotions, your thoughts, your past, it's all part of your history. It's all part of your fingerprint, your footprint that you've left on this universe. So why be ashamed of it? Why be ashamed of it? It happened. It's real. Like, the human collective unconscious. We all understand that we all did all these things. Why would we judge people for it? Yet we do. It's so strange. That's why the religious concepts of forgiveness, of truth-telling, are so interesting. It seems like they're very sacred and important, don't they? It's one thing to forgive others. It's another thing to completely forgive yourself. It's another thing to completely accept others and empathize with others. It's a whole other thing to do that to yourself. Like, how much anger, frustration, and hatred you have towards people is directly correlated to how much you don't understand you've done the same things and you're doing the same things and you're suffering from the same maladies, the same weaknesses. Give me a second. Anyways, it's an interesting conversation. It's getting late. Don't want this blue light to affect my sleep, so I'll be back. It was good talking with you all. I'm gonna read. Peace.